G'day there, once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys I wanted to go through some pointers, tips and tricks behind getting into and playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. While on the surface Battlegrounds might just look like one massive free-for-all, it's far from a basic game to master and to most importantly win. But here we're going to be going through 26 things that will help you come closer and closer to getting that sacred winner-winner chicken dinner message at the end of the game and being the last one standing. So without further ado, let's get straight into this video. Tip number 1. When you get into the plane, take note of the compass bearing that it is travelling. This will give you an idea as to what options you have as a starting location before the plane appears on the map. Following that, start eyeballing the map like a hawk to see where the plane actually is, what direction it is travelling exactly, and what options you have as a starting location. Tip number 2. Never be entirely reliant on a go-to starting location. Remaining adaptable and having a strategy for different starting locations will ensure that you have the best possible chance at surviving the clusterfuck that is the start of the game. Tip number 3. When free-falling, always have yourself moving either as horizontally or as vertically as possible. If you need to make some extra distance in order to reach your chosen starting location, you can do so by holding your cursor as vertically upwards as it can go and holding W, which will maximize your distance over fall rate, which is the most efficient way to get the distance you need. Once you reach your intended destination, well, at least you're above your intended destination, free fall as vertically as you can to get to the ground as quickly as possible. Tip number 4. When you're about to hit the auto deploy altitude for the parachute, try to get as much vertical speed as possible. The momentum you gain from the free fall will put you closer to the ground faster, which can be the edge you need in the very hectic opening stages of the match. Tip number 5. While parachuting, or even free falling if you have the chance, try to take note of the amount of people parachuting into the area with you. Are they moving towards specific buildings? Are they moving to the same building as you? Will they get to that building before you? These are the questions you need to consider to pick out a building that both offers really good loot but doesn't put you right in the firing line of someone who is going to get a gun before you. Tip number 6. Pick up the frying pan. Just do it. It serves as a fantastic butt shield even if you don't use it for the entirety of the game. Tip number 7. When in the process of looting, try to fill your 2 primary weapon slots with 2 weapons that are good for different ranges. In this game, having a long range shootout is just as likely to happen as a close quarters brawl, so packing 2 different types of weapons keeps you prepared for all situations that you might encounter. It never hurts to be prepared. This also applies to weapon attachments. Having 2 weapons with 4x scopes can leave you incredibly vulnerable in close quarters combat. Tip number 8. Use third person for the most part. Third person gives you a much wider field of view and can work wonders when in CQC building combat for peeking around doors without exposing yourself too drastically. Tip 8.5. Use third person to scan over the crest of hills and cliffs and even peek around windows before you reveal yourself too drastically. Tip number 9. Get into the habit of using the tab inventory menu to pick up loot. It's less finicky so you don't have to run in circles around an item trying to get that sweet angle to pick it up using the F key, which can be quite a common occurrence if there is loot stacked on top of each other. This is especially useful when you have 2 crates of dead players really close to each other. You can actually loot the 2 crates at the same time by using that tab inventory menu. Tip number 10. Turn up the game sound and learn the sounds of this game. In this game, the thing that gives away an enemy player's position more than anything is sound, whether it be footsteps, gun cracks, or vehicle engines. So having your sound turned right up and knowing what sounds to listen out for can be paramount to your survival. Tip number 11. When you are in a multi-storied building and hear footsteps in your building, the sound of the footsteps you hear can be very telling as to where the enemy actually is. If the footsteps are incredibly bassy, the enemy is on a floor above you. If not, they are either on the same floor or below you. Listening for doors can also give you an exact idea as to where the enemy is in the building, especially after you learn the layouts of certain buildings that you will find on the map. Tip number 12. Make use of the free look feature in this game and make it one of your very bad habits. Constantly scanning your surroundings is key and can ensure that you don't get dropped from an angle that you have not checked. There are going to be times in this game where you do not have time to stop sprinting to scan the environment. Using the free look function can ensure that you can remain sprinting towards the safety of that white zone, yet still scan your surroundings for enemy contacts. Number 13. When playing in a duo or a squad, having your team member member/members scan different areas of the horizon ensures you are always covered. For example, if you're in a squad of 4 players, having a squad member check each major compass bearing accordingly can ensure that you don't get dropped from any unexpected angles. Tip number 14, all vehicles in the game will spawn by default facing to the east unless they have spawned in a garage. So if a vehicle is parked in any other direction outside, it has been moved by a player and can be a nice early detection warning for a player being in the area. Tip number 15, as soon as the white safe area gets posted, take note of where it is and begin planning how you're going to get there and how long it is going to take you. Don't spend too long looting to only get caught out by the blue pain field. Tip number 16, something to take into consideration with the blue field is the speed that it will be moving. Basically, if you're on the side of the play area where the blue field has to make up more ground, then it will move faster and therefore you need to allow more time to make it to the safe zone. It's vice versa if you happen to be on the side of the map where the blue field has to make up less room. You've got a little bit more time to move. Tip number 17, with that in mind, especially in the later stages of the game, try to position yourself where the pain field has less ground to make up on your side. What this allows for you to do is force enemy players who might be on the faster moving side of the pain field to move first, which could set you up for a nice and easy kill. Tip number 18, don't panic if you get stuck in the blue field in the early stages of the game. It's not the end of the world, as the damage is fairly minimal, and you should be able to tank it unless you are really far away from the safe zone. In that case, do your best to find a vehicle. Tip number 19, as the game goes on, treat every building as though it might have someone hiding in it. A vehicle parked outside of a building, not in its natural state, doors open, or a lackluster amount of loot can be a dead giveaway to a player being in the area. General rule of thumb, always be careful. Don't go buzzing into a building expecting it to be empty all the time, especially if that building is located on the very edge of the safe zone. That is a favorite place for people to hide. Tip number 20, if someone gets the drop on you, don't panic. If you take a hit or hear a shot whiz past you, start moving erratically by jumping and changing directions as much as possible to make yourself a harder target to hit, all the while scanning the area using the sounds of the shots to figure out where the enemies are. Running in a straight line just makes you a very easy target to hit. There's a difference between moving erratically and panicking. Learn to identify that difference. Tip number 21, whenever being shot at, never run directly at the shooter, even if that's where the closest bit of cover to you actually is. Either make a break for a piece of cover that allows you to move in a way that makes you harder to hit, or if worse comes to worse and the only piece of cover available to you puts you running directly at your shooter, zigzag or make every attempt to make yourself a harder target to hit. Beelining it towards cover when it's right at an enemy shooter makes you a sitting duck for a nice and easy headshot. Tip number 22, healing in this game is not as basic as spamming bandages until you're at 100% health again. If you are injured, using bandages and first aid kits can only get you to 75% health. In order to get back to 100%, you need an energy drink, painkillers, or an adrenaline needle, which heal you over time and can be stacked to increase the healing rate, or a med kit, which will heal you back to 100% from any point instantly after use. Tip number 23, an armor vest or a helmet in mint condition is always going to be better than a helmet/armor vest that is damaged, even if that damaged vest is of a higher level. For example, if you're using a level 2 vest and find a dead guy with a level 3 vest that is damaged, you are much better off sticking with the level 2, as it will still provide you with more armor over the level 3 damaged vest, or at least in most cases. Tip number 24, grenades are not to be messed with in this game. If you pull the pin on a grenade by accident, do not attempt to put it back into your pocket. Unlike most games, the grenade pins do not simply reappear just because you decided to switch weapons before you actually threw the grenade. Trust me, I've learned that the hard way. I pulled the pin on a grenade by accident, attempted to put it back into my pocket, 3 seconds later, I was missing a hip. Tip number 25, if you get caught out in the early level blue field, using an energy drink or two will ensure that you can keep up with the blue field's damage. And finally, tip number 26, when in vehicles, don't give the vehicle too much gas when moving over bumps or crests of hills. Trust me, and don't try to challenge me on this, you will most certainly roll the vehicle. The vehicles are extremely unsteady if you send them flying over a hill. While it's great fun, it can often send you straight to destination fucked. out. And guys, with all of that said, that's going to bring us to the conclusion of today's How to Play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds in the sense of 26 tips and tricks. If you guys enjoyed today's video, then a backhanding of that like button would be greatly appreciated, and if you find yourself backhanding that like button and, well, say you're new to the channel, why don't you go around and backhand that subscribe button whilst you're at it to keep up to date with the content in which I'm releasing here on my channel. If you guys have any feedback for today's video, or say I've left out a very crucial tip that you guys are, shaking your head at because I forgot to include it in this video, feel free to drop it in the comment section down below. One of the better tips that I find there, I will pin to the top of that comment section. Once again guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Have a good one.